Indeed, Steeler Nation. Steeler Nation, we are back for another great episode of the one and only The Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. I am Jay York Football. Alongside of me is Mic'd Up Sports One. And man, we are excited. A lot of juice going into this Steelers-Eagles week, the Battle of the Keystone State. Just exciting stuff right now. Could this possibly be a Super Bowl preview?
Man, you never know. We'll definitely feel out the Eagles situation with our guest today because it doesn't seem like it's all sunshine and butterflies and roses, even though they're the hottest team in the NFL. But I do want to make sure everybody knows as we go into this that the Eagles, for me, not a rival. Not a rival. The Steagles, you go back to, 70 years ago or whatever, these teams can join to help save each other's franchises. I have no problem with the Philadelphia Eagles. I know the cities have some problems with each other, but this is not the Browns to me. This is not the Ravens, not the Bengals. I respect that franchise, and not a rivalry. I gotta start with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think it's great when the team, usually it's the preseason, so I'm glad that this one, is the real deal. So why don't you tell us how, our viewers and fans can make some real deal cash this NFL season with our partners over at DraftKings?
Yeah, the NFL season is rolling along and the contenders are separating from the pack. It's definitely true with the Steelers and the Eagles. But the one thing that hasn't changed this season, of course, is DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. It is the number one place to bet touchdowns. We don't care how they get them. Truly, we want to bet on touchdowns, and DraftKings is the place to do it. Here's a new reason to do it. Do a touchdown dance of your own by betting $5 to get 150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Do us a favor, use our code SICKSPORTS. Download the DraftKings app. 6 Sports, all one word. You see it right there. 150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you win. If your bet wins when you bet just $5, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
All right, Yinzers, let's talk birds with, of course, somebody who is well in the know in Philly. This guy is an analyst for Pro Football Network, Eagles writer, Philadelphia Sports Network, and Metro Philly. He is checking all the boxes. It is none other than Anthony DiBona. Anthony, what's going on, man?
How you guys doing? It's a little bit crazy in Philadelphia right now with what's going on with the Eagles, and I'm sure we'll get into that, but I'm excited to talk about this matchup.
That's what I want to start with. You probably talked about it a lot ad nauseum. You're probably sick of talking about it at this point. But from a Steelers perspective, got to talk the Brandon Graham comments, of course. Seems to be a little bit of friction between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown right now, even though you guys are the hottest team in the NFL, arguably. What is going on?
I mean, I wish I could tell you what's going on. It's just like, as an outsider, we can only tell so much, but it's just everybody talks about the team's passing struggles and A.J. Brown's lack of targets or Jalen Hurts' lack of passing yardage throughout the season. But like you said, they're still one of the hottest teams in the NFL regardless. So it seemed like they were somewhat quieting the noise, but then A.J. Brown said that the passing was an issue with the offense following the game. And then literally the last person that I would have expected on the Eagles, and Brandon Graham, who's been around longer than any other player in Philadelphia, he goes out and says what he said. And I'm sure everybody's seen it by now, but pretty much saying how they had Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown have some type of issue. And I mean, maybe what he was saying was trying to say that they were friends prior to being teammates, and now they've had to try and work through that relationship as kind of coworkers in a sense. But regardless, it just only did nothing but fan the flames and kind of put gasoline on the fire in Philadelphia. So now what is kind of overshadow the matchup between the Eagles and the Steelers, which should be a good one and potentially a Super Bowl preview. But now this is all we're going to be talking about in Philadelphia, unfortunately.
Yeah, for a veteran leader to get on a microphone and say something like that is definitely uncommon. But I also personally think, from a neutral perspective, that his words might have been misconstrued a little bit. I feel like he was not saying they aren't friends anymore. I feel like he was more so alluding to the fact that, like, these guys are friends. They shouldn't be going at it this way. Anyway, that was just my thoughts, my 2 cents on that. But obviously, you mentioned winning, not winning in an exciting fashion. Winning is really difficult in the NFL, and they're doing it. But are you concerned about this team because of what's happened the last few weeks?
I don't think so. I mean, I believe they're in a pretty good spot. I tweeted about it in the past where last season at this point they had a point differential of just like 20 points or something like that. Whereas if you look at the season prior, when they reached the Super Bowl, they were in triple digit territory, which is where they are this season. So I think the defense and how good the defense has been for Philadelphia this season is kind of why I'm not too concerned about what the struggles on offense or however people want to perceive the issues in the passing game. So I think just simply because of the job that Vic Fangio has done with the defense, I feel like that just makes most of the Eagles fans and the writers and those that cover the team a little bit more comfortable with them moving forward because of how good they've been this season.
Well, this is a Steeler podcast, as you said. So, we kind of have to ask about your backup quarterback, Kenny Pickett. And how do you feel personally? And what do the coaches feel over there in Philly right now?
I mean, of course, when they initially traded for him and the compensation they gave up, everybody was like, "Oh my God, is Jalen Hurts going to be moved? Like, what is going on? This is crazy. Why would they trade for him?" But it's kind of similar to what they did a couple of years ago when they traded for Gardner Minshew, where they got a guy who was a young quarterback that had some success. Granted, he wasn't anything special in Pittsburgh, and that's why they moved on from him. But just the fact that he had another year of team control, he's under contract for at least one more season. I think that kind of played into it. But then again, he was underwhelming in training camp and preseason. A lot of people were saying that Tanner McKee should be the second quarterback in front of Kenny Pickett. So he hasn't gotten off to the greatest start in Philadelphia, but luckily he also hasn't had to see the field because Jalen Hurts has been so healthy. So, I mean, not the greatest move in hindsight, but I think it's all right just moving forward.
Good. Nick Sirianni, talk about your coach. Is he a guy that you trust, to get this team back to the promised land and win a Super Bowl?
I mean, it's looked rough at the start of the season, obviously, and with how things ended last season. But I mean, he's kind of taken that CEO role that we've seen other coaches like Dan Campbell and your own Mike Tomlin kind of take that role and run with it and be really, really good at it. So I think that might be where Nick Sirianni fits best. We've seen him kind of try and rally the troops and saying all the right thing, especially with this issue that happened with Brandon Graham and what he said. He was kind of already on the radio in Philadelphia, kind of trying to lower the noise and then calm everybody down a little bit. But he tried. I don't know how well it's going to work, but I think Sirianni's an adequate head coach. His winning percentage kind of speaks for itself. I know a lot of people don't like the way that he showboats and whatnot, but ever since the offense has kind of been taken away from him, which is probably not what you want to see, but ever since that's kind of been taken away from him, the Eagles have kind of taken off under his tenure.
Good. And I believe that and Mike, I think you can let me know, his brother is a coach at a college here in PA. I can't remember which.
When I went to, you're probably familiar with IUP. When I was at IUP, Sirianni had just been the wide receivers coach. So I've known about him for a handful of years now. His Pennsylvania connections and connection to Western PA run pretty deep. So that is interesting if anybody out there watching or listening.
I think his brother's at Westminster, maybe?
Another Western PA spot.
Yeah, crazy. Powerhouse. Anyways, talk about the Steelers matchup, and just for you personally, what are you most looking forward to, and what stands out the most to you?
I'm just excited to see. It's almost like a mirror match in terms of how both teams are operating right now, especially if George Pickens doesn't play for the Steelers. It seems like Mike Tomlin said he's doubtful, and then we'll see what happens there. But if he's out, they're both going to just kind of rely on the running game. And the quarterbacks, Russell Wilson only had 150 passing yards last week. Jalen Hurts barely eclipsed 100 yards passing. So it might be more of a running game and see what happens there. But it should be a low-scoring defensive battle. That's what I'd expect. Two of the top defenses in the NFL. And it's going to be exciting to see because I feel like a lot of people were so focused on that Eagles-Ravens matchup from a couple weeks ago that the Eagles kind of ended up blowing open. It wasn't really that close, but I think this will be a much tougher competition for the Eagles and a good measuring test for both teams.
So that means I'm going on DraftKings right now and taking the under, just because you said that.
I've been wrong in the past, so I don't know. I mean,
it's all right.
We'll see.
It's a coin flip. That's what gambling is. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, every single time. We've made it like 10 minutes of the show, and I haven't even said the word Saquon Barkley. This dude, unbelievable. Do you think he's right there in the MVP conversation? And you watched him with the Giants, obviously. Did you think he still had this kind of juice?
I mean, I didn't see it coming. I notoriously tweeted, and it was picked up by Old Takes Exposed, that there was a 0.0% chance that the Eagles were going to sign Saquon Barkley. But
Oh
Howie,
no, old
Howie
takes
Roseman
exposed. I've been
kind of
there.
broke.
I've been there.
Howie Roseman kind of broke his trend and went with paying a big running back, which he never did previously in his tenure. But it seems like it has paid off because Saquon Barkley looks like it's his rookie season again. And he looks unstoppable because even though he may not get off to a strong start to begin games, they're still relying on him late in games and just wearing out defenses. But that's why I'm so intrigued to see how he performs against the Steelers, because they are such a stout defense that has taken the ball away at a higher clip than anybody else in the league. I believe they're tied for first in takeaways in the NFL. So it's going to be a tough test for Philadelphia, and of course Saquon Barkley as well.
Yeah, the PA connections continue. I'm sure the motivation spiked a little bit. Obviously, after the Giants did not bring him back, and now he's playing close to his hometown and a Penn State guy as well. So we're covering Pitt, Penn State. Westminster even snuck in the show, JY. What is going on? All right, we talk about injuries for the Steelers. Obviously, Pickens is a big deal, but they got healthier defensively with Highsmith returning. Tell me a little bit about some Eagles injuries updates. Is Devontae Smith healthy? I know he played last week, but is he 100%?
Yeah, he played last week. He definitely looked healthier than he did in weeks prior to that, because he sat out the 1 week due to the hamstring injury. But the 2 weeks before that, he really wasn't moving well. Only had about 20 or 30 yards in each game. You could tell he wasn't the same player, but he looked a little bit better last week. He caught a touchdown, so he seems to be trending in the right direction. But they did lose Dallas Goedert, so he won't be available. It seems like they should be getting Reed Blankenship back, who they had Tristan McCollum in there at safety last week, and it didn't end too well. Bryce Young targeted him quite a bit, so their secondary seems to be rather healthy, and overall they seem to be, outside of the Dallas Goedert injury, they seem to be trending in the right direction for this week.
I think Steelers fans who have not watched the Eagles closely this season are going to learn a lot about a couple of players in your secondary who I was banging the table for on draft night. Who knows how good Troy Fautanu is going to be? Steelers first-round pick from Washington, got injured, missed the whole season. A really good prospect, but I wanted Quinyon Mitchell at that point. I couldn't believe he was on the board. Tell me about this secondary, and Cooper DeJean, obviously, too. What a freaking steal. Is it the best secondary in all of football?
I mean, I feel like you could say that when they're fully healthy, especially with Reed Blankenship back, who's a really underrated and kind of the steadying force in the secondary at safety. But once they're fully healthy, and since they started Cooper DeJean at slot cornerback, they've just taken off, and they've been pretty much a shutdown defense overall. If you take away what they've given up in garbage time to a few teams, they're allowing around 15 points a game, which is just unheard of in this day and age of football. So, I mean, since, like you said, Quinyon Mitchell's been a shutdown player all season long, where it's gotten to the point where teams don't even throw in his direction anymore. I don't want to say Darrelle Revis, that might be taking it a little bit too far, but teams are just simply avoiding him. He's only been targeted a handful of times in recent weeks, and you would think that normally they would stay away from a guy like Darius Slay, who has several Pro Bowls to his name, but instead their options to throw at Slay and not target Quinyon Mitchell at all. So it's so weird to see, especially young cornerbacks playing so well so early in their career, because we've seen other cornerbacks drafted high and they kind of struggle to get going in the NFL, but it's kind of been the opposite for Philadelphia in that regard. But you mentioned wanting Quinyon Mitchell, and I have to point out that many Eagles fans and myself as well, as when I did my draft evaluations, was a lot of us wanted Peyton Wilson to be drafted by the Eagles. And unfortunately, the Eagles went with Jalen Hunt. So he's been playing well, though, in recent weeks. He's kind of had to step up on the edge with some injuries there. But I'm excited to see Peyton Wilson in this game, and I've been keeping track of him from a distance this season as well.
Beast. Absolute beast. And another overthink by NFL teams letting him fall to the end of the third round. Well, what a joke. Quinyon Island. We got to find probably a better nickname moving forward, but it's happening.
He's been going by Quinyanabo Bay is the nickname that he's been embracing this season. So he wore it on a hoodie last week, so it seems like that's what he's rolling with.
I like it. Go ahead, JY.
Hey, just a few more questions before we get you out of here. Again, this has been great previewing the matchup. What's your thoughts, on Russell Wilson? And then I just wanted to get your prediction for Sunday.
Well, I think Russell Wilson got a little bit too much flack last season. I thought he played rather well for the Broncos, but because of the contract situation, obviously they sat him late in the year, and that's why he was eventually released. But I think a lot of people, myself included, I thought the Steelers were a little bit crazy for moving on from Justin Fields and making that switch to Russell Wilson, because I guess the narrative was that Russell Wilson was kind of cooked at this point in his career and whatnot, but clearly he's erased that narrative in recent weeks, and especially
now he's cooking.
Yeah, exactly. Especially those first couple of games against the New York teams where he just put on a show. I mean, without George Pickens, it might be a little bit more difficult for him, but it seems like he's playing efficient football, even if he doesn't have to force the ball down the field. And when they do need plays, he's been able to make plays. And one thing that I'm kind of concerned about for the Eagles, especially seeing how Bryce Young kind of evaded so much pressure last week, is that Russell Wilson can still make plays with his feet and he can still move in the pocket with some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So the Eagles are going to have to be careful and disciplined with how they rush and how they get to Wilson, because otherwise it could be a long day for Philadelphia's defense, despite their success this season.
All right, and I know it's still early in the week, but what's your prediction for Sunday?
I mean, I'm sure your viewers won't like this, but I'm going to go with an Eagles
That's
win.
all right.
I think it'll be very close. I'm going to go Eagles 27, Steelers 24. I think the Jake Elliott's going to knock off the rust. He's another issue that I probably should have discussed earlier, but he hasn't made any 50-plus yard field goals this season. So I think he finally shakes the rust off and instills some confidence in the fans around himself this season, and maybe hits a late field goal to give them the win.
Good. And tell everyone where they could find you at and what you have coming up next.
So
you can find me on X at DiBona NFL. I pretty much tweet about primarily the Eagles, but I'll talk about the NFL as a whole, especially with my work as an NFL analyst for Pro Football Network. And I also cover the Eagles for Philadelphia Sports Network and Metro Philly as well. So you could, like I said, I mostly talk about the Eagles, but a little bit of NFL overall as well there. And I appreciate anybody that checks out my work. It means a lot.
Awesome. Hey, well, we really appreciate you having you on as a guest. Keep up the good work and best of luck. May the best team win Sunday.
Drive safe. You got the heat pumping in there?
It's off right now because I didn't want to disturb the audio. But
yeah,
I'll do it for you guys. Thank you for having me, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Sweet,
all right.
man.
Anytime, Anthony.
Thank you.
Take care. Yeah.
Brought up an interesting point there at the end, their kicker, Jake Elliott. I was going to say they're going to get a firsthand look at Chris Boswell, who seems to be automatic right now, from 50 plus as well. So if it does come down to a field goal kicking game, the Steelers have a distinct advantage there, big time advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's the team MVP. I mean, it comes down to, they always say, and we said it a million times, it's a game of inches. You know, field goals matter, kickers matter, special teams matter. Every part of football.
Every blade of grass.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole – you got to play 4 quarters, and that's what the Steelers have been doing, and hopefully they can continue to do, minus the Browns game. But it's a long season, and this is the gauntlet. Like this is where, this is where it's going to separate, contenders from pretenders. And, especially that Christmas Day matchup with the Chiefs. This is where it's at, because these are the teams that you're going to see in the playoffs and inevitably maybe the Super Bowl. So we'll see. It's exciting right now. I mean, I'm kind of just like even keen right now, because I don't want to get like too high or too low. But this team is really special, and I said it from the beginning, and I'll stand by it. I thought Russell Wilson from the jump was the guy. I think he's rejuvenated. I think I don't think the guy's really worried about a contract right now. He has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, coming from Denver, and it's just been great to watch. And it's like, just think of, what we had to watch for those past 2 years with Kenny Pickett, and then those last couple of years with Big Ben. Even though we wanted to cherish it, we haven't had good quarterback play in Pittsburgh in a while, and it just makes things good. We have the defense, but yeah, and it's exciting. It's an exciting time in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I was encouraged by the fact that the Steelers did not play well last week against the Browns and ended up with 27 points. Yeah. When have we seen that in the past with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense? It's been a long time, like you said. I am worried about the lack of weapons against the Browns. Whatever, like you could go out there with you and me at receiver and still put up a fight, but without George Pickens against the best secondary in football on the road, I'm not too optimistic. Russ is going to have to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. He's going to have to once again be on his game, be savvy, creative in the pocket. And Arthur Smith's going to have to dial up some really creative stuff. But I'm not putting it past them, because it's what they've done since he's been in there.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds stupid, and you just got to take it one game at a time. I don't want to, right now we have the Philadelphia Eagles coming up, And I think that should be the focus. Christian Kuntz said it too. I mean, with all this hard knocks, stuff going on right now, and you just gotta go out there and play 4 quarters and win it, and hopefully, we'll come out with a win. We have another Philadelphia Eagles reporter coming on, so really he's going to actually be in the locker room on Wednesday, so we're going to be talking to him. Thanks again to Anthony for coming on, and thank you guys. Make sure you tap that under and use our code 6sports on DraftKings. Make yourself some money. It's been another great episode. As always, on the Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. Be sure to follow us. J York Football, Mic'd Up Sports 1. Until next time. And Shane, take it away. Thanks, Shane.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.